I would base it just on their drawings because I don't know very little about their characters.
Dungeons and Dragons is a show very loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons is a fast-paced action cartoon from the 1980s.
Oh my god, I can't top either of those. Dungeons and Dragons is a children's cartoon from the early 80s. There's the same damn thing.
Good thing we're not competing yet. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Falling Towers Watch the First podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to. Of course, we are doing the 1983 children's Saturday morning. Is it Saturday morning cartoon? I sure hope so, because
it was 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. I remember watching it.
Oh, wow. Whoa. Because this is Saturday morning cartoon month, the final episode of Saturday morning cartoon month, 1983 cartoon Dungeons and Dragons. Our very special guest co-host, Dr. Muhammad Noor, is here.
Hello. Always a pleasure to be on Falling Towers. Watch the first.
We have a very special guest today. You've seen him a bunch of times before. You call him Andy Richter. We call him actor Darth Schuhe.
Andy Richter. Nice.
You know, actually, I worked on Conan O'Brien's show a few times back in the day as an actor, like the funny little skits. Great times. That's for a different time to discuss those. But my impression of Andy Richter was when they would do their rehearsals. I swear it was so funny because they do the rehearsals. We do the rehearsal skits on stage before they go live. Andy Richter just walks out like looking at his phone on Twitter. He just walks out. He doesn't look where he's just walking out. Then he sits down on the couch, and then they're doing the rehearsal. He's still sitting there like this. Every once in a while, he says something to Conan, like Conan. They rehearse what they're going to say. Conan's going to say this, and Andy goes, and he looks back on his phone, and they go, "Okay, we're good with the rehearsal." And then he stands back up, still looking at his phone, and walks away.
Wow, he's still ready to go.
Chill job.
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't make eye contact with anybody or something.
So what I'm trying to say, Darth, is if you're going to be Andy Richter today, that means you got to stare at your phone the entire time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I gotcha. I'm always too. Well, this time I'm fending off a mosquito attack. So.
Oh boy. Well, because Darth, we're using Zoom through your phone right now, so staring at your phone the whole time is actually.
Yeah, no, that's
good.
Funny stuff.
Pretty okay. We'll cut all this out. So anyway, this first episode is entitled "The Night of No Tomorrow," and we're going to talk about it right now. Everybody's like, finally. Remember, please give this video a like. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications. Give us 5-star ratings and nice reviews. And tell us what you think about this show in the comments below. Do you remember watching it? Muhammad, you said it did 3 seasons starting in 83?
Correct. That's what it said on IMDb. I mean, I don't remember the exact length. That's what it said on IMDb.
What network was it?
That I don't remember.
Okay. All right.
I remember clicking on though at 9:30 because it was after Super Friends and after some of the other shows that were earlier.
That's some good block.
Muhammad, what's the first thing we're going to do here now that we got all this stuff out of the way?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like we're in a predicament.
Make Mike proud right there with that one. Trying to fix it.
It'll be fun to predict what each of us think. So what did Ryan think? What did Darth think? Are you going to guess first, Ryan?
Okay. So Darth and I have known each other for so long that I think this show was not on.
We've watched the show together.
Yeah. He is wearing a Greatest American Hero shirt, and that was almost still on when we met, probably. But anyway, and I've known Muhammad for a few years. Darth and Muhammad have known each other for a few months. I don't know. But we like to predict what the other person thought of this show based on, terrible stereotypes and stuff. So, Muhammad, I predict. Oh, first of all, you guys, everybody at home, we like to say why we're doing this show. Not only is it Saturday morning cartoons, but who suggested it. We got a couple other people that may have suggested as well. But the bottom line is, the fact of the matter is, Muhammad's been suggesting this show for like a year. And so eventually we got to give in and just do it. But before we talk about why or if we liked it, I'm going to guess, Muhammad, since you've suggested this show so many times, that you love it. And you did love it. And you probably watched this first episode within the last year and watched it again and still loved it. Darth, I'm going to predict that you are very hard on 80s cartoons when you watch them. So I'm going to predict that you... And you're not a big Dungeons and Dragons guy. There's too much thinking involved with that stuff. You don't want that kind of crap. I'm going to predict that you're very low on this show. Those are my predictions. What do you think, Muhammad?
Ryan, I'm pretty sure I remember you saying that you've watched this show before. I remember trading notes with you about that finale episode that was sort of fan made, but I think made based on a script. It was actually supposed to be the finale of this show. So I think there's going to be at least a nostalgia aspect. In terms of the specifics of this episode, that I'm less certain on. I think there's going to be elements that you like and elements that you don't like. I would guess still, like, on balance, you liked it, but you didn't love it. Like, you liked it. Like, you're like, okay, yeah, between the nostalgia and between elements of it, I think you were positive. Darth, I'm going to contrast Ryan and say I think you did like this. I mean, maybe not like 9, love it, but I think you liked it. I think you found it, engaging plot, and we're going from there. So I'd say maybe more in the 7 range for you.
Wow. Darth, your thoughts? Any guesses?
Yeah, this is really tough. I'm glad if Ryan hadn't said already, given a little backstory. That's how I guess Muhammad likes it. Ryan, boy, yeah, I was thinking. He said it's a kind of a thinking show, or is that later on, or I don't know. I didn't get. Maybe it is what was over my head or something. I don't know. But yeah, let's see. Ryan. Ah, man, I don't know. I'm gonna say you did not like it, but I guess we'll see.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
I think one thing that you're not going to like, Ryan, is that, and this is getting a little bit into what's in the show, but I think the one thing you're not going to like about it is the absence of a greater telling of the origin. Like, it's basically just that intro music or the intro part.
Yeah, and there's another thing.
But we'll get to that later on.
Darth, don't get too deep into the weeds there. But when I said thinking, it's like a thinking thing. I meant the game itself. Dungeons and Dragons is like a thinking thing with rolling dice and with writing down, things and math. Got to add one. So, all right. So those are our predictions. Everybody at home, make your predictions. You're getting a lot of hints today, but you can still go out on a limb and make wild guesses if you'd like. But while you're typing in your guesses in the live chat or in the comments below, Dr. Muhammad Noor here is going to, buy you a little bit of time and tell us what this show's even about.
Well, indeed. So, 6 kids who rode a Dungeons and Dragons ride at an amusement park are thrown into that fictional world and made into specific characters with powers. In this episode, the team stumbles upon Merlin's castle and learns how Merlin saved the village of Helix from dragons. Merlin invites the magician kid Pesto to stay and learn as his apprentice. And Pesto then tries to help his friends by using Merlin's magic to open a portal home. But it turns out Merlin was not who he appeared, and he tricked Pesto into releasing the dragons back onto Helix again. The team must now work together to save the village and to save their friend Pesto.
Wowie. So, everybody, those are some pretty good predictions you've got there in the live chat. Good stuff. All right. Now we are going to compare and contrast what we expected before we watched this show with what we actually got. Dr. Muhammad Noor likes to call it.
To call this the expectation, with a lot of emphasis on that latter part, the getchen. It's my unique spin to it.
Yeah, uni. All right.
Unique.
So, okay. Muhammad, please go first. You're the brave one, taking over for Michael, who was the brave one before you. Before you watched this first episode of Dungeons and Dragons, how he says it, what's his name, the Dungeon Master, The Night of No Tomorrow. Before you watched it, what did you expect?
I knew fairly well what to expect for this one because, yes, I watched this show back in the 1980s. but I also rewatched it more recently with my son. This was another one of his pre-bedtime shows. I think after we did Smurfs that we talked about before, we actually switched over to Dungeons and Dragons. I've actually had dinner with him last night, and he said, "Boy, you're just doing my whole childhood here on Watch the But yeah, so I had a pretty good idea what the plot was. I remember the introductory part, which actually lays out the story. I remember who the 6 characters were. I couldn't remember each of their individual names. What I didn't remember was this particular episode at all. Even going in as it started and things like that, I didn't remember the Merlin story or any of those pieces I just mentioned in the introductory part. So I didn't know how this would rank relative to other episodes of this series.
Mm-hmm. All right. Darth, before you watched this first episode of D&D, the cool kids call it, what did you expect, if anything?
Yeah, nothing, I would say. I really had no idea. Didn't know. I just assumed that it's like action adventure, some kind of or leaning heavy into the adventure.
Well, a Jedi craves not these things, Darth.
True.
Okay. So that's it. So pretty much nothing.
Really nothing, yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I expected. Yeah.
Okay.
I did see some of this back in the day when I was a kid. I remember my brother had discovered it, and I just saw he was watching this cartoon. I was like, whoa, a Dungeons and Dragons cartoon? What? This is all I've ever wanted. But I don't think I ever watched that many episodes. So I think it came out of syndication very shortly after discovering it. I don't remember if I saw 3 episodes or 10, but whatever it wasn't a huge amount. It was like I was like, oh my God, what an amazing cartoon. I can't wait. And then I just never really saw much of it. So, and I'm sure that was not deliberate. I'm sure it wasn't that I just didn't want to watch it, but I don't remember exactly what happened there. So what I expected was something fun to watch and something that I might remember. I certainly remembered the characters. But that's about it, hoping it might be fun to watch, because who doesn't love D&D besides Darth? So that's what we expected. Dr. Noor, what did you actually get, though?
Actually, before I say that, I'll mention one quick thing. This is something I emailed or I messaged you, Ryan, about. Is that apparently these 6 characters are coming back in a movie next year. It's actually a Dungeons and Dragons movie. It's real, not animated, but just like real people one. But somehow these 6 characters are part of it. Maybe not like the main part, but at least show up at one point in time. So that was unexpected. But like, okay,
love that.
Yeah, but in terms of what I got, I got about what I expected in terms of just this felt like, as I was watching, like, oh yeah, I remember. I didn't remember this particular plot, but it felt like all of the plots of the show, where very, very dramatic introduction thing, which basically sets up the entire show. I'd hoped a little bit, and I didn't get this. I'd hoped a little bit for a little bit of an origin story, especially on the interaction with Uni, the little unicorn you can see right here. I mean, the only introduction we have on why Uni was with them is in the introductory scene. Like, we see Uni jumping into Bobby's hands, and then that's it. I guess now she's part of the team. So, nope, nothing more than that, or something more about Venger. But no, it really did. The first episode could have been the 15th episode. It was very, very interchangeable.
I was actually going to comment on that, because there was like 1 or 2 lines in there that made it sound like it was like in the middle of the adventure. Like one of them was like referring to his hat. Like, oh, you've used the hat before to do this and that. I was like, wait, isn't this your guys' first adventure? Like, why are you guys referring to past things, past events?
Yeah.
But in terms of plot, I felt like there was a very full plot. It actually was very full plot. I actually, the introduction description I gave could have been a lot longer than what I gave. Just a lot happened in those 23 minutes. So that I found good. I'd forgotten how much I disliked Eric until I was like, oh God, he's like worse than Brainy Smurf.
Maybe that's why we didn't watch it as much, because my brother's name is Eric. He was probably like, man, fuck this show. Kind of looks like him too, but taller.
Which guy is he?
The guy with dark hair that kind of looks like my brother.
Cavalier. He's on the far right on my screen.
Oh, all right. This guy over here, yeah.
So, Darth, what did you actually get upon viewing this first episode? I know.
Oh man.
See, he didn't like it.
Yeah. See, I don't really know how without going into a review. Well, it took me like four passes to get all the way through. It was very tough for me to. I just kept putting me to sleep. And then I'd be like, on the next episode, I'd be like, oh, I finished that already, man. I was barely 5 minutes in. How'd I fall? So what did I get? Not much. A loss of what, 20 something minutes of my time? I don't know.
Wow.
Did you feel it was slow, or what did you feel about it?
It was slow, I guess. Yeah, I wasn't I don't know. It was like hypnotizing me to just like close my eyelids. I don't know.
But well, in fairness, Darth was very drunk. So I'll tell you what I got. Boy, I don't really know. It had the elements. It had the elements that I like and I want, and it had the elements that I liked and wanted as a kid. As far as what the heck was going on, I was like, it's like they just threw a bunch of scenarios in a blender and just kind of was like, whatever.
Yeah. It's
very similar to what I've been feeling about a lot of cartoons. When you go back and you watch them, you're just like, it feels like the writers are like, who cares? Kids will watch any old crap. It's like they just care about the concept. And then as far as like the nuts and bolts of it all, like actually writing a good story, they're like, who cares? Just dragons, wizard, name, funny joke, put that in there, and that's it. So that's kind of what I got was, it didn't seem like it was very well written, but it had all the elements of a fun cartoon that I would have enjoyed. But that's what we got overall. Let's talk a little bit more about that intro, Muhammad. You are right. And Darth, I agree with you as well. Like, I kept going, wait, am I sure? Am I absolutely sure this is the first episode? They even said Dungeon Master, when he disappears, they're like, he keeps doing that. He always does that. And I'm like, what do you mean? You just met him 5 seconds ago. And the unicorn, same thing. I'm like, how did they, like, look, if you're not going to give them any kind of intro story other than that little 30-second introductory song or whatever, then you need to make that introductory song with like words where they're like, and then the 6 people landed here and they found a unicorn and the unicorn went, yeah, and or give us something. It's like we're just dropped into the middle of their campaign.
It was.
I don't know. That was
it was very much like dropped in the middle. I'm sorry.
Darth?
Yeah, don't kids want to see like how the origin of something? Like the kids just gonna watch the story right in the middle? Like, okay, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. All right, I know enough. But like I feel like I want to know what's going on. Like, how do these? Yeah, give it the backstory.
So I agree with both of y'all, but I feel like that's true for a lot of the Saturday morning cartoons. So I was thinking like for Super Friends, I don't think there was any origin stuff. It's just like boom, go. And Smurfs, so we did like boom, go. So a lot of the cartoons from this era. I mean, again, Transformers was an exception, but a lot of them were just boom, go. It seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they just figure, kids are smart. They'll figure it out. They're watching
up. Kids are dumb.
Well, part of it was probably. Well, part of it is the era is different in the sense that there wasn't streaming then. So the odds of the kids seeing episode 1 is pretty limited. So it's just, I mean, we can invest in that, but like, a lot of them just aren't going to see it. So.
But for the kids that do see episode 1, they, like, Darth, would you have enjoyed this show more if, say, the first 5-10 minutes was an introduction to the characters in school, making friends, there's a bully, they're like, let's go into a thing, and then by like the first or second commercial break, they land here, and then, oh my God, there's Venger, and then they run, and then they meet Dungeon Master, and he says, and then at the end, he's like, you'll have run into a lot more things in Dungeons and Dragons, and then end, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Like, now I got to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
I wonder if part of the reason they did that was intentional, because again, since in the 80s, like they would basically, this would go every week, but then sometimes they'd bring back old episodes, and you wouldn't necessarily want it to be like, oh, this is obviously an old episode because this is an introductory thing I've been watching.
They want them to be all interchangeable. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's what is known as a 3rd episode pilot, where they just kind of just drop it. It's the first episode, but you wouldn't really be able to tell, from anything. They said, and was you called Uni a she? Was Uni a she, Muhammad? I was trying to figure that out.
I don't remember for sure. That was my recollection.
I thought it was a he, but he had like pink eyes and long hair. I'm like, maybe it's a girl. You know, I can't tell.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember for sure. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that this seemed to be a Pesto focused episode, and I'm guessing then that there'll be a different one that's more focused on Hank or on Sheila or on Bobby or something like that. Hopefully not Eric. Oh God, he's the worst. He's so annoying.
They got to make the chicken or the complainer or the annoying guy. You got to make that person also likable in a way. Otherwise, you're just shooting yourselves in the foot as as a production company or as a writing team. You got to make him like complain, but be funny when he complains. Or, if he's annoying, he's only annoying to one of the people so that we laugh at that one person. Or, you got to do something to make that character still likable.
Yeah. The way he was. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I just was wondering if they made that Eric character likable, or is he not likable at all?
I don't remember him ever being likable.
What do you think, Darth? Was he likable to you?
Gosh, I hate to say a lot of these. I don't remember. These all characters kind of blended together. I remembered them by their one. Yeah, the one guy's a wizard, and one guy is like a archer, or what exactly?
Yeah,
is he, a
ranger. Yeah,
but basically an archer. Yeah.
And then you got a barbarian kid. Yeah, I don't really remember the girls. I remember one had like a pole vault.
That was Diana, the acrobat.
Yeah, and the other girl is what? Has an invisibility cloak.
Yep,
and is that her whole thing? She's a thief.
Okay. Yep. So Sheila and Bobby, the thief and the barbarian, are brother and sister. The rest of them are all unrelated.
Yeah,
that comes out in other episodes.
Well,
it comes up in other episodes because she's very protective of him in other episodes.
I do remember that too. So they must have mentioned it in other episodes because I remember that from when I was a kid, or at least I thought I did. But I also thought that the character descriptions kind of left a little bit to be desired. Like when I saw the guy that was a cavalier, my first thought was, oh, there's the knight. And I was like, ooh, there's a knight. And they're like, cavalier. And I'm like, cavalier? He's a knight or a paladin, right? Or then I'm like, oh, and there's the warrior. No, barbarian. And oh, a rogue. Nope, she's a thief. It's like they diminished the character by calling him or look, there's an clearly, obviously an archer. And they're like, no, a ranger. I'm like, what? Rangers don't use swords too? They're just, I don't know. The whole thing was I was a little annoyed with that.
Yeah, do they not have the rights to say those things or something? Like, it doesn't make why wouldn't they just call them those things?
Maybe you're onto something there.
I'm surprised that they didn't have the rights, given how many Dungeons and Dragons references there are through the show. You'd think that wouldn't be that high a bar to get the extra bit.
It must have been maybe at the time or something. There was some kind of loophole where they weren't allowed to use those terms or something.
Maybe so. The thing with Eric too is
Hobbit.
Yeah. The thing with Eric too is not only was he annoying, but he was also clearly like stereotypical rich kid too, annoying.
Yeah, I didn't remember that element until today.
I didn't remember that either. That was new. The other thing which struck me especially was the ranger guy, Hank. His arrows do like nothing. Like he can shoot constantly at things, and they just they kind of get mad. That seems to be the extent.
But at least they don't take up a lot of space.
That's true.
They're just like magic.
Yeah.
Were those hobbits or were those? I thought they might have been gnomes, but they didn't end up telling us. And that, as a kid and as an adult, that's what I'm into is the lore. I'm like, ooh, are these gnomes? What's their story? What's their? And nope, they're just like, figure it out, kid. It's short people. Deal with it. Whatever you want it to be, just whatever. Yeah, leprechauns. Who cares? Yes. But they didn't say, right?
Ryan's got some fun guys behind him. What are those, like goblins or something?
Well, I would have thought they're orcs or goblins, but who knows? They won't tell us. So what do I know? They'll be like, yeah, kobolds. What do you who cares? Brownies. I don't care. It's your teacher, kid.
Whatever.
But what do you guys think? This is Michael Kenyon Rosenberg used to call this favcac, but let's wait a
that is a pretty funny, I don't know, word.
Yep. Who's your favorite character, Muhammad? Did you have a favorite character, and why was it Eric, the non-paladin?
I mean, in this particular episode, it was actually the character who I think in the series is underutilized, and that's Diana the acrobat. I mean, in general in the series, she's very underutilized. But this one with her magic pole, she was quite useful several times. And the way she could like spin it around and use it as this weird boomerang thing to put out all the torches. And so like, wow, okay, that's pretty powerful. And she could jump over the sky moat and things. So I was like, wow, that seems really good. I mean, Hank is clearly the main character, but again, like those arrows,
useless.
I mean, they literally just kind of bounce off things and make them mad.
It's like a mascot. It's just a mascot.
Yeah. I like, I mean, in general, I like Sheila, the way she protects her brother, but I mean, that didn't really come up in this episode.
Wait a minute. Did you guys notice, speaking of Sheila, that this cartoon showed a panty shot?
I saw that. That was embarrassing. I saw that. Like, what the heck? Yeah, when she was jumping on something, I was like, whoa, that was a weird shot.
Yeah,
okay.
And it wasn't even like you would expect. Okay, look, she's wearing this super short skirt thing, which we probably thought was amazing when we were kids, right? But
it was white panties. I remember that.
Right, yeah. And then when she jumps on the horse, you would think, because in cartoons back in the day, you would have to show that angle sometimes when they're jumping, and they would probably usually just have like same colored shorts under it, or like pink shorts, so you don't even really notice it. But if like it still logically works if they're doing like a flip or a cartwheel or they're jumping but they showed white panties, and I was just this is just a little bit, it was just a little bit weird. And then
especially for somebody who's probably like 15 or whatever, like, oh, okay, don't show that.
I know. My first thought was, I hope they're supposed to be 18. Let's just assume they're supposed to be 18, except for the little barbarian kid, who's like 1 or something. But then I paused it because I was like, wait, and I typed in my notes. I'm like, did I just see a panty shot on a cartoon? Too. And then while you're pausing it, YouTube shows you the most like replayed moments.
No.
Oh.
And it was one of the 3 like most replayed. So hopefully the only thing I can hope, exactly, I'm only hoping that it's just people like me that were just like, wait a second, what? Did I just see?
Did I see that?
Yeah, I didn't even pause it. I saw it though, when I was like, whoa, okay, whatever.
No, I pause these things like 50 times so I can write stuff down and not miss things like what Darth does. But Darth, now that you know this, who was your favorite character?
Oh man. Geez, I don't know. I kind of like I would base it just on their drawings, because I don't know very little about their characters. I like the Merlin character. He was a fun-looking, he was a cool-looking guy.
You're talking about Pesto, or are you talking about
Merlin?
Actual Merlin.
Merlin, I guess, he was not really Merlin though, huh? He was like somebody proposed as Merlin.
Yeah, it was Venger. It was behind Ryan there.
Yeah, nice. And I guess he's the main villain, huh? And that dragon was pretty cool. That Hydra type of guy, different colored heads and everything.
Tiamat.
Yeah.
Tiamat.
So your favorite characters were the ones that you won't really see again. Okay.
Probably. Oh no, they're in the lot.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's a really
always recycle everything.
So you see Merlin again?
Not Merlin, but you see Venger and Tiamat. Both of them.
Tiamat. Interesting. Okay.
There's a really dark episode, which actually is probably my favorite one, where like they basically like they've had it, at some point where they're because every other episode is kind of like this one, but then there's one where like they keep almost getting home and Venger stops them, and then they were like, screw this, we need to kill Venger. Whoa. And Dungeon Master comes out and he says something like, I have an adventure for you, and they're like, no, we need to kill Venger.
We got our own admission.
And they basically they set up a trap for him to get killed by Tiamat, and that's like the most stuff. I was like, whoa, this like got really dark.
Wow, see, Darth, now this thing's shaping up a bit, isn't it?
Like, all right, I'll start watching it.
You want to see then the 5 dragon heads fight over who gets to eat his head and stuff like that. They're like, why do I always get an arm?
Yeah, it's real dark.
Well, I'll tell you my favorite character. I didn't really think about that. I mean, I guess I don't have one. Like, based on this episode, I don't have one, because you got the annoying guy, but then the magician's kind of annoying too, because he's a dork, and there's no way I'm gonna like the kid, and
he's a little too just dive in on everything,
and I can't like an annoying little thing, So what does that leave us? The 2 girls and the archer guy. I mean, maybe the rogue girl because a rogue sounds better than a thief. But when I first started watching this, I was like, oh yeah, what is she, like a priest or something? I wish she would have been like a priest / robe. You know what I mean? A rogue. Cool. That would have been cooler. But then they're like thief, and I was like, I don't know. So
yeah, downgrades it.
Yeah, one of those three are in a three-way, very mediocre tie right now.
Yeah.
By virtue.
Did you all like the white hair thing? I mean, it was a little obvious when somebody said, "Oh, here's a hair and he's white." It was a little obvious.
Yeah, they really telegraphed that one.
Yeah, well, as soon as he had the rabbit, you know, obviously I put it together, but that's because I'm not a 7-year-old or 8-year-old. But then they really hammered it home. Wait, he said it's not a rabbit. It's a hair. A white hair. And then later on, the kids were like, wait a minute, it's not a rabbit. It was a hare. A white hare. Yeah, it was a white hare, just like what Dungeon Master said. We thought he meant hair like this, but I was like, okay, guys, we have to move on from this.
How dumb are these kids? Yeah, we have to.
They even pointed at their hair and
it was a little over the top.
Yeah,
even kids didn't need all that. Yeah, dude, jeez, guys. Darth is practically a kid. You didn't need all that, right?
I'm imagining kids like pulling their hair out, like, "Oh my, we get it."
Yeah.
I did remember. I forgot about until watching this episode, the Dungeon Master disappearing thing. I remember they'd sometimes try to follow him, and then he'd quickly walk behind some tree and then be gone. They never actually see him disappear. He'd just be gone suddenly.
So is it like a fantasy world? Like, is it are they actually in this world? They really are, right? It's not.
They really are. And every now and then, like a portal will show up, but then they have to try to do stuff, and then Venger will make it so it goes away, or they don't quite get there, or they have to make a decision to save the village or run through the portal. Like, I guess we have to save the village. So very Quantum Leap-esque.
That old gag, yeah.
What's that?
The main villain, his name is Venger.
Venger, the force of evil.
Mumra.
Is he like a race or anything like from Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh. So in the unfilmed finale, you actually find out who Venger is, but it's not in any episode. Finale? Damn. Yeah. So what happened? So there's only one reference in any of the episodes to it. And it was just at one point in time they make some comment about Venger, and Dungeon Master at the very end just says, "Oh, it's so sad," and that's all you ever hear in the actual show. I was like, "Oh, what?" But he's actually Dungeon Master's son.
Whoa.
Yeah, something went wrong. I'm afraid some spell went wrong, or he tried to do something and it turned him into that. So in the unaired finale, there's a way to actually get him redeemed and back to normal and stuff. So he's not this weird one-horn guy.
Damn, I wonder if that's going to be in that movie. If that's if they're bringing these characters, who knows how much is going to be in the movie.
It seemed like it was just a quick scene. It didn't seem like it was going to be like that was a plot of the movie.
But yeah, that would be a good plot for the movie, right?
Yeah, there's a fan film that actually made out basically this whole thing.
Oh, so nice! Like somebody else did their own finale, basically.
Yeah, but the animation looks identical. Like you would think it's actually this. It's also on YouTube, so you can find it. It's called like Requiem, Dungeons and Dragons Requiem. If you search for that, it comes up, and it's like watching the actual finale episode that never happened.
Yeah, when Muhammad first started telling me that we should do Dungeons and Dragons, I was like, oh yeah, I used to love that show. That's so cool. We'll do it sometime. And he said, there was this unaired, finale, and then some fan film guy or whatever actually did it. The voices sounded pretty close. The animation was almost spot on, and it was pretty good. I watched it. Was it just a half hour or was it longer?
It was just half hour.
It was just half hour, yeah.
Wow, they even squeezed into the time frame. Huh? I would think the voices would probably be the toughest thing to replicate.
Yes. Speaking of voices, apparently Venger here, the guy that does Venger, also does the voice for Optimus Prime. In
super famous voice actor.
Yeah, and Transformers, or as Darth likes to call them, Transmorphers.
There's another connection to that. The person who does Uni does Shockwave and Megatron in later Transformers movies.
Yeah, so this is Optimus Prime, and the little crap unicorn is Megatron.
That's versatile voices right there.
Somebody I recognized. What was it? Somebody did. I think the guy that did the voice for Merlin also did Uni, because when Merlin did like a little squeal, like he was like, or he did something that sounded just like Uni. I was like, yeah, it's the same guy. You can't fool me.
I love catching that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like, hey, I know that voice.
Darth, who's your favorite voice actor? I know you got a lot.
Oh man. Whew. Damn. That is a tough one. Man, well, I'd probably pick somebody from the Venture Brothers. I'd probably go with
the Venger Brothers.
The Venger Brothers. I'd probably say, the guy that created the show. What's his name? Jackson Public. That's his professional name. Probably, yeah. Patrick Warburton. He always sounds the same, but he's obviously hilarious.
Oh my God, he's so good. Okay, here was another thing I noticed. What's Diana? Yeah, Diana the acrobat.
Mm-hmm.
She called Pesto.
I missed that.
Towards the end, like in the last scene, she was like, "Oh, great job, Pesto." And I was like, "Did I hear Pesto?" So I rewound it, played it again, listened very carefully for like a very subtle R. No R. She called him Pesto. She did not know that his name was Presto. She called him Pesto because she's like, he's wearing green. Obviously, he's Pesto.
Well, so what do you think? They think that was like an accident, like the voice actor messed up the line read or something?
I think it was just an accident and nobody really noticed it or caught it. And they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, kids will watch anything. Who cares? Move on.
Oh,
yeah, good enough.
Speaking of kids will watch anything, what was this deal with the floating rocks? Remember, they're always like floating in the air. Like, what? What is that?
And a floating castle.
Floating in the air. And it just kind of was there. No comment. Nobody said anything about it.
That was badass. That was probably one of the coolest things, seeing that floating castle.
Mm-hmm.
You like that?
Floating castle too, but I've seen there were just some rocks there in the beginning, like when they were climbing up the hill and Uni was following them. There were just these rocks floating out there in the horizon. Like, okay.
That's got to be some kind of fantasy thing. I feel like I've seen that before, but I remember distinctly in the movie Avatar, and I think they kind of explained it. It's like something about the atmosphere, or I don't know, or the gravitational pull or something. But I feel like, I remember that was when I noticed it, and somebody else was saying, that's like a thing. It's like a fantasy thing.
Right now, Muhammad and I, while you're saying that stuff, Muhammad and I are like calculating. We're like, there would have to be some unbelievable gravitational and atmospheric things going on for rocks to be floating.
Yeah.
That is like so out of the question.
The science thing, which got me, was Eric's comment. I don't ride anything that gives milk. Like, so you've never ridden a female horse? I mean, like, we give milk.
I don't know. My mind went even naughtier with that line. He's like, I don't ride anything that gives milk. And I'm like, yeah, we can tell, bro.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was a weird one, too, right? When they were trying to make, like, burgers and they made a cow.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, and I was kind of curious Ryan's point of view from a vegetarian point of view, like, do those jokes not land? Are they insensitive?
No, I mean, what I thought when they did that, honestly, was like, okay, so what are they giving up? They can still make burgers out of this cow. Like, are they just going to slaughter this cow and eat it? Like, that's what some people would do in real life if they're actually starving in a world where they don't know what is edible and what is not. And then they get a cow. They're like, well, at least we know what we're getting. Sorry, Bessie.
Yeah, but we did just bring you out of nowhere, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how they slaughter. I mean, nobody has a knife or a sword or anything. I guess you'd have to use like the barbarian's club or something. I don't know what you'd use.
Yeah, that's another one. That must be an attempt to make the show a little less violent, huh? No like, swords or axes or anything. The arrows don't penetrate.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I did think it was funny when Presto tried to get the cow back into the hat. Like,
that's not happening.
That Eric guy, though, man, by the end of the episode, I was just like, and just to go a little further with his comment that he made, I'm like, this guy's never going to get a significant other. He's never going to get, we know, you never will, you never, I don't know. Like, it was tough for me not to dislike that, actually dislike the character. Like, I thought I was going to dislike the kid the most because it's just some annoying
little kid.
But like, I think that guy was even less likable. And I'm like, I don't know how he has friends. I don't know why they're around him. Like,
I think that sometimes they do. It's just a theory on shows where they make a character like that, just so like the protagonist can like kind of put them in their place sometimes, and then like as the audience they're like, that's what I've been waiting for, somebody to put that guy in his place. Like I hate that guy too, or I've been waiting for somebody else to make a comment about that to his face, or you know.
Good call.
He probably has some redeeming moments at some point in the series, right, Muhammad? I'm hoping.
I mean, probably some small ones, but he's definitely annoying through the whole thing. But he's like I said, he's kind of the brainy Smurf. I mean, he's kind of like that. Well, if everybody listened to me, none of this would have happened.
Darth, did you have a favorite moment in the show besides floating rocks?
I was just gonna say the floating castle. Not really. Yeah, none of the moments really jumped out at me. I guess I don't know.
What about you, Muhammad?
I thought the reveal, even though we obviously saw it coming, I thought the reveal of Merlin as Venger was pretty well done. Like where you know Presto goes running in there and he says, "Oh, so you did this thing?" And it's like, "Ha, I fooled you into releasing those dragons." Like, I mean, he didn't say the ha. I thought that was pretty good. I thought, you know, overall, I mean, plot wise, actually, even though it was chaotic and there was a lot there, I still felt like there was a fairly solid plot from beginning to end there. So I liked that overall, and I like that reveal scene especially.
Tell you another thing that kind of bothered me about it was Merlin. I was like, why is Merlin in Dungeons and Dragons? Like, why not just throw in Sauron and stuff? Like they're like, all right, Dungeons and Dragons, here we are. You have to find Frodo Baggins.
Wait a second.
King Arthur and Merlin are right around the corner. And then to get the secret key, yes, go find Queen Elizabeth and Megatron, and they will. What are you guys talking about, man?
What else can we throw in here?
It just.
They're like, that's a name people know. They know Merlin.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's why they did it. That was clearly magician. You know, there's no question there. I mean, they could have said Houdini, but that would have been weird.
That would have been even weirder.
Said just the magic magician, you know, and then. Oh. So I was actually taken out of that because, you know, when you're a kid, though, you're always like, oh, Merlin, awesome. You know, so it probably works with kids because they're excited to finally see Merlin, you know, but adults are like, wait, but isn't that like a different thing? That's like a totally different franchise, isn't it?
Anyway. Well, you probably can use that name license free too.
Oh, good call. Good call. I did like the scene also where then when they got up to that echoey place and they were screaming, and then Uni screamed and nothing happened, and then Uni did it louder. Sure, of course, you knew something bad was about to happen when Uni did it louder, but it was still amusing.
Did you guys also notice that Venger was cross-eyed when it showed like close-ups? Him, he had red eyes that were like fully cross-eyed. They were like,
whoa.
I didn't notice
that. Makes him look more evil, maybe.
Maybe so.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
A force of evil.
All right. Well, let's move forward and talk about you, Darth. You're a big fantasy guy. And by big fantasy guy, I mean, you know, you don't really care too much about fantasy. But
well, I was thinking it's funny that we're both wearing a sci-fi shirt.
Yeah.
or
Sigh. Yeah. Just sigh
at least.
Sigh.
Sigh. So, Darth, you're an actor. You've been an actor for basically the entire time I've ever known you, since we met like
a chunk of my life,
in 7th grade. But I remember one of the first tastes I got into people that are in the world of acting. You were like in the drama class in high school, which I always thought was weird because I'm like, but they're not doing drama; they're doing comedies all the time. But I just thought it was weird that it was called drama. But shortly afterwards, you were in a fantasy movie. You were playing like orcs and goblins and stuff like that. I forgot what it was called, but I remember, and this was before I'd ever considered doing any kind of acting or anything like that. Like, I just thought it was so cool that you and some friends are out in the hilly brush in the forest with a camera and camera gear and makeup on and swords and whatever, and basically playing Dungeons and Dragons.
That's what it's all based on with Dungeons and Dragons. These guys were big Dungeons and Dragons guys as kids. So,
Can you tell us a bit about this experience? Like, was it as fun as it sounds?
Whew, I mean, it's very physically demanding, but that aside, oh man, it was a blast. Yeah, I was like a orc a couple times. So they had like a big fake green nose, and it was all green and everything. And then the main one was I was a dwarf, so I had to have a big bodysuit and a big fake beard, and this was before Lord of the Rings, so they didn't have that cool plastic chainmail. They had to use real. So I had this 40, 50 pound big old like chainmail. So it was a pretty intense costume, but man, that was so much fun. Just being in the forest playing fantasy with a bunch of guys all in these fantasy costumes and everything. Big battle axes. None of the props were fake. It was all like real battle axes and stuff. So
real orcs, yeah.
Real orcs, yeah. Real.
You guys really went for it. None of this wimpy stuff nowadays.
We don't need it. As little acting as like if you could really scare somebody, the less real acting you gotta do, the better.
So Darth,
I guess sorry, what was that moment?
Well, I was gonna say I just pulled up your IMDb real quick right now. I saw you were also uncredited, but in the Star Trek 2009 movie.
Oh yeah. If you see, I guess maybe you can see it better than the Blu-ray, but my dad did a pretty good job of getting a nice screen grab of it.
Yeah.
So so you could, if you know me, you can kind of recognize me, but otherwise I'm just kind of like a shape.
He steals the scene.
Yeah.
He's with Dr. McCoy.
All right, but
He's with Dr. McCoy. But tell us about your experience on that set, because I remember after that day when you left, you're like, "Oh, it was so cool. I got to see Carl Urban saying, 'Oh, get this guy over,' or whatever." How was the set?
A lot of guys were hanging out on this set. What's his name? Chris Pine was also there because that was the part where he was in sick day. Who else? I saw what's his name that plays Spock.
Zachary Quinto.
Yeah, Quinto.
Your buddy
Quinto.
from Heroes.
Yeah, and I was a big Heroes fan at the time, so I couldn't take my eyes off him.
Tyler.
Yeah, oh man, that was a great character, huh? You watched that one?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
It was hard to transition to Star Trek after watching Siler do this little buzz thing on the foreheads of everybody. Damn, man, now you make me feel like watching. Have you guys done Heroes or no?
WTF Heroes. When we do another, what is that, superhero? Would that be considered superhero genre?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. A lot of people said that was
or
kind of basically like X-Men, basically, right?
I've never seen it, so WTF Heroes. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Darth, awesome. What is your absolute favorite project in which you have ever acted? Was it that fantasy thing we were talking about, which was one of your very first projects you did? Was it being on set with Star Trek, the 2009 movie? What was it? What was the most...
When the fever breaks in 2019.
The most nerdy, fun, or exciting thing you've ever done?
I'll probably have to say it was that Goth Girls show, just because just playing that character. I love that character that I got to play, and I was playing like a goth character, so I got all the goth makeup and everything.
Yeah. And, what was your character's name?
Just made him real despicable Sadisto. And I kind of based him on like a creepy, like a Renfield type, just a guy that's lurking in the shadows. And man, that was just so much fun to be like in that body and be in that character. I don't know. Yeah, play this real scumbag. That probably is my most fun of, yeah. But
that was that was created by our friend Vera Vanguard. Check her out. She's in a couple of our WTF episodes as well. What were you saying, Darth?
Oh, I was just going to ask you about some of your crazy, because you've done some really out there stuff.
Well, I'm looking right now to see. Let's see. So Vera was in WTF number 15. We did Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So check that out, everybody. That's WTF 15 with Vera Vanguard. And she was also in WTF 27. We did our review of Cobra Kai. I don't even know if it was on Netflix yet or if it was on YouTube Red or whatever. I think it was on Netflix by then. It had just hopped onto Netflix. So check those out. Oh, lastly, she also joined us on WTF number 91, also with Rico Anderson. We did Cowboy Bebop on Netflix. So those are some good ones. Everybody check out Vera's goodies. We also did The Building of Good and Evil with her. Remember, Darth and I played two, like knock Bible on the thumper. Door, Bible thumper, religious evangelist kind of guys. And that we definitely, they basically what they said was, go as big with it as you want. Like, this is a parody. This is a comedy. Don't internalize it. Just go as big as you want. So Darth and I kind of looked at each other and we're like, okay. And we each said,
went for it. That was a lot of fun. And we said, okay.
Yeah, that's a Tenacious D line everybody knows from the greatest song in the world. The song is called Tribute. Anyway, sorry, Muhammad. He's like, what are we even talking about anymore?
I just want to ask, what was your zombie role in When the Fever Breaks? I mean, it says on there that you were a zombie.
Me? Yeah. I was. It's funny because I was a zombie. I was a couple different zombies. Okay, all right. For a second, I thought I was just hands because I had really awesome. I was one of those scenes where the hands are like coming through the window, the boarded up window, which to me that's like a staple in zombie. Like that's
super
like
fun.
Romero, yeah.
I was hitting your hands with a hammer.
Probably, yeah. My thumb still never healed properly. No, I do remember having full face makeup and everything. I got to eat some people, so yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I love the way Darth goes, I got to eat some people, and he goes, like, watch the tape.
That was fun.
He says,
the other white meat.
Oh man.
All right. Well,
Ryan's
everybody,
really crazy performances.
Yeah, well, we'll have to talk about that one day when I'm a guest on this show, which will be never. Sorry, everybody.
We can swap.
But I did get to act in When the Fever Breaks and had a lot of fun with that zombie movie. And I did hit Darth and others' hands with the hammer because they were trying to break into my house. So, of course, I had to do it. And then had some really good fight scenes with actor and fight choreographer Sean Piccanino, which was so much fun. There's nothing more fun than doing a fight scene with somebody that's an actual fight choreographer and stunt coordinator, because then you're like, okay, this is going to be a good one. I'm going to be I'm going to be the weak link here. So it's going to be good at least because you're not like relying on something else. So great fight scene with him. Had a great time. And great movie. Good job, Darth. Shout out to Tymaine Clay, who directed that film and wrote it. He's also in a WTF episode, everybody. Sorry, let me pull that up. Director Tymaine Clay actually did WTF 36, which was, of course, The Walking Dead World Beyond. We picked him because he's a zombie aficionado. So we got to have Tymaine Clay back again. He and I also saw the newest Thor movie together recently in Burbank. But anyway, let us move forward all the way to the Terrible Twos. Got to move forward. Here we go.
Bottom line.
Almost snuck it out. All right. It's the final two questions of the show, which are really the two most important questions. Question number one, Dr. Muhammad Noor. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of Dungeons and Dragons?
So, I mean, this is one of those tough ones because I know I'm biased because I enjoyed the show, as a kid, and I enjoyed rewatching it with my son. So in that sense, that gives me a much more positive view of it than it probably deserves. But I'm just gonna go with that. I'm gonna give it a 7.8.
Ooh.
Yeah, that I liked the story, even though it was a little chaotic in parts. There was a lot packed in there. But actually, I liked that there was a lot packed in. Though it was hard to keep track of it all because there was so much packed in. There were definitely some deficits, again, like the absence of an origin story and Eric being annoying as heck. But overall, yeah, I mean, for a kids' cartoon, it was good.
Well, Darth, are you ready to rain on Muhammad's parade? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this episode? Honestly, actually, there's nothing that says we have to be honest on this show. You can say whatever the heck you want.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a 10. This was a good game. It earned
44. Who cares?
44.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's funny because I feel like Muhammad and I feel like we do have. I feel like we have some similar tastes,
Salty.
But when it comes to this part, I feel like we're always like almost the opposite,
It's okay.
I feel like every point I want to give it is like I like the art, I really like the premise, is a fun, like it's a great idea and everything, and I like the kids and everything, but it just the execution, something about it just didn't grab me. So I'm gonna bump up some extra points just because of that. But I guess I'm gonna go 4, I guess, and that yeah.
I won't take it personally. And again, like if I saw this only now and I had never seen it before with my son and by myself, I don't know that it would be different. So
yeah, no, that's true. I definitely cut things that I love a lot of slack. Like I'll forgive them for a lot.
yeah,
But hey, Muhammad and I are both the greatest American hero guys. So
that's right. I don't wearing the shirt today, but I have one.
Who doesn't love the WTF, the greatest American hero? That could go under superhero or comedy.
Story.
It's true. Look at what's happened to me. I can't believe it myself.
I can't believe it.
November will be superhero comedy month. So no, I don't know, like how many superhero comedies are there besides that one?
I'm sure there are.
TV shows? I don't know. I'd say She-Hulk though is a
Venture Brothers.
Yeah,
Venture
but
Brothers,
we already
definitely
did Venture Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Or as I like to call them,
depends on your taste in comedy. You could say The Boys, but it's not intended to be comedy.
I believe we did The Boys.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. Let's make sure. Yeah, this was a WTF number 30. We did The Boys on Amazon. Yeah, our special guest was actress Bethany Boden. So check that out. WTF 26. Sorry, WTF 26 is the correct one. All right, so on a scale of, I'm such a nerd. I love to pull this stuff up, and there's nobody that's going like, oh, let me write this down.
Wait a second.
But if you love The Boys, check it out. Okay, so look.
It's an ominous look.
I mean, I'm also trying to grade on a curve because I do, love this, because this is the exact kind of show that I would have wanted as a child. And it's the exact kind of show I would have wanted as a teenager. And it's the exact kind of show I would have wanted as an adult. However, it was like a 3.5 at best, because none of it made sense. It was stupid. It was dumb. It had all the elements that I love, or I would have loved, but just kind of whatever. Throw it out. 3.5 for me. However, question number 2, Darth is like depressed. Look how sad Darth. He's like, God, I could have gone lower than a 4. Nobody would have been pissed at me.
Yeah, right. I could have given this thing a 2.
You could revise it if you want.
No.
So question number 2, for the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of Dungeons and Dragons, The Night of No Tomorrow. Night as in evening, not as in paladin or whatever. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Dr. Muhammad Noor, would you of your own volition watch the second episode?
I would, though I have absolutely no intention to. I would.
Okay, that was an easy one. What about you, Darth? Would you?
This might surprise you, but I'm curious. I would like to watch. I do want to watch the second one. But if it's like gonna be like this, like if I'm like 5 minutes in, if I'm just feeling like it's the same thing, like it's all, I'm gonna turn it off. But I am curious because I do like the premise and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
So basically, you're like, I'm gonna give it 1.2 episodes, and if I'm into it by the 0.2, then I'll watch the second one. If I'm not, then that's it. It's over between us.
Yeah, then you lost me.
Okay.
I think
I can tell you which episode was the one that I was telling you about earlier. If you want to just jump to that one.
Oh yeah, that's a better idea.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can look it up.
All right.
Okay. So Darth and I are so teased. We both lit up. We're like, yeah. And he's like, maybe I will later.
I'll get back in.
So would I watch the second episode of this drivel? Totally.
Drivel.
Absolutely. Yes, I would, because it has all the elements that I like, right? Exactly. So like, even if they're not piecing it together well, I still want to see an artist's rendition of orcs, an artist's rendition of dragons. I want to see the concept of wizardry. Even if it's not written well, I still want to see it. The same reason, like, we look through Dungeons and Dragons monster manuals or stuff. You still just want to like look at it and let your brain go
let your
into faraway land. Yeah, it's fun. Who cares? And maybe this first episode just wasn't great, and the others will be. I don't know, but I would watch the second episode. Absolutely.
Nice.
Because I want it to be good and fun. Yeah. What were you saying, Mohammed?
I just said awesome.
Oh.
Yeah. You guys that gave it super low marks, they're like, we're ready to watch the next one.
Yeah. It's funny. You guys sound more ready to watch the next one than I am. Whereas I'm like, I would, but I have no intention to. You guys are like, yeah, I'm in. I'm going in.
Yeah, I'm going for it. All right. Well, speaking of going for it, everybody, we've got to go. And this is the end of this episode. If you'd like us to review a show, October, of course, this is such a stereotype. We're so obvious. It's horror month. So next week, we are doing, of course, American Horror Story. So check that out. However, what are the other horror shows we're going to be doing next month? Who knows? In the comments below, say WTF and some kind of horror or supernatural thing for October.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
We will do it. Maybe. So give us those suggestions. WTF stands for Watch the First. Type in WTF and then whatever your suggestion is. And who knows? So what I'm trying to say here is that this podcast was fantastic. That was terrible.
The podcast was a roll of 20 on a D20.
Ooh. Way to bring us up, Mohammed.
Yeah. This podcast was a lot of fun hanging out with these guys.
Yeah.
You too,
Agreed. All right. I want to redo mine. Those were good. All right. I was like, how do I combine fantastic? Anyway, everybody at home, thank you for watching. Give us a like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Tell your friends. They deserve to know. And make your suggestions in the comments below. And remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
Don't forget to become an organ donor. And don't forget to watch the first of things.
All right. You know what we're going to say now. Freeze frame like you're in Dungeons and Dragons.
That shitty smile and pretend that